folks, and welcome to I think it's episode 27 of Square's Realm. Just a wee bit of alternative episode here today. We've got a guy called Darragh on. Now, Darragh, somebody I met through his father, Stephen, who's a big community worker, activist, done a lot of work in the powerhouse, which was a place that I came up in, and heavily influenced a lot of my work and a lot of people around the Bogside's work. So sadly, Stephen's father passed away there a year or two ago, and we just thought it would be quite interesting because we were talking back and forth on Instagram after that cross of spiritual pathways meeting, and we found out also that we're both schizophrenic, we both have that sort of relation. We just thought this would be an interesting conversation to have, try and keep it as relaxed as possible and talk about all sorts of dynamics, maybe for 2 episodes, see where it goes, and maybe give a bit of insight into us as Bogsiders, us as schizophrenics, us as content people digest the internet in general, as kind of like fucking Darragh was telling me he surfs a lot on X and I surf a lot on Pool and stuff like that, so we had that similarity in internet culture. So I'd let him say hello and then we'll probably get into a conversation.
I'm Darragh. I'm 21 and as Square was saying, my dad was Stephen Gargan, who was, a very kind of prominent activist in Darragh for 40 years really, do you know what I mean? Since, he was coming up to Darragh since, the mid 1980s. And, in my house, I would have been raised with like a lot of knowledge around the conflict and stuff.
See, this is the thing, hey, not to interject, but I also grew up in 2 households. One was very conflict ridden, but it was always very hidden from us. We weren't politicised. It was more see it as it is, as you find it, sort of, that way.
But in my house, like my dad, when I was about I think it was early in secondary school. Right. We got taken to the Free Dairy Museum.
Right.
And you're kind of introduced to that sort of thing. And probably around then, or maybe it was as a result of going there, my dad kind of was sort of educated me about Bloody Sunday in particular, which he was very involved in activism wise, and would have told me and informed me on stuff like in relation to how the official narrative of rogue soldiers and stuff is just not true, and so all things like that in regards to just piercing that age.
When you say rogue soldiers, what do you mean? Because you would have to forgive me. People see me as this guy that does political satire, but I'm doing it commenting on somebody that does not know. As an alien did. So this is a chance for other people as uneducated to me to learn through you. So what would you say that would be?
Well, the official narrative of Bloody Sunday was that you had soldiers.
The extra gunmen, so to speak.
More so to do with you had the idea is that all the paras were sent in to deal with this riot and blah 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 blah, and then they just lost the head and just were overly aggressive and just blah 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 blah, and that was the kind of the line that was put with the inquiries and stuff like that, and of course, in the Savile inquiry, they were going terrible what these guys did, but they totally, how would you say, exonerated the British state because, what my dad informed me with is that Bloody Sunday was a planned operation in that, the paras were sent in to do a job, and that how he I don't know where he got this information from exactly, but certainly his theory, and I would regard it as a well-informed theory, is that he felt that the paras were sent in and were to kind of fire some shots, whether it's out into the crowd or whoever it's at, do you know what I mean? And to prompt a response.
Directly cause an assault.
So
Not
that,
so much as an accidental thing
No.
that can happen out of judicial.
yeah.
It was a direct order.
Yeah, and so that what this would do is this would prompt a response from, you know, the provos or whatever to shoot back,
Right.
and then it would then justify we move in.
So like
you know
a
what I mean?
false flag operation.
Essentially, yeah. And so to move in, but the thing is that apart from one or two people, nobody really shot back. So these boys were sent in to shoot at people, and they were expecting a response, and they didn't get it, so they just kept going. You know,
Right.
And that's kind of how it was sort of explained to me, and I would have had that explained to me about 14. You know what I mean?
Justice.
So I would have, you know, in my house we were very much. I was very much.
Oh, we
raised
were
about-
very aware of who we were on the right side, so to speak, you know, in that sense.
Yeah.
Stephen, your dad was always hanging about too, down round, you know, like Glenfather Park, working on murals and stuff.
Yeah,
and the connection of Hawks, we were probably one thing my people have been aware of.
Yeah.
Hawks is a great friend of his father's,
Yeah.
and he's done a lot of work with me. And I don't know if you know a backstory, but there's a deeper history with our family and Hawks as well, but we
Right.
probably couldn't talk about, you know.
Right, okay.
But Hawks is a great guy, helped your father a lot along the conflict, and always helped me get. That's one thing I'll say about Hawks. See, from the start I was doing exhibitions, he knew me through Daniel Darragh's my friend, and that would be Sharon's, Hawks' partner, and like they were always at the exhibitions from the start, hey,
Yeah.
from the beginning of them, we always didn't grow, hey,
Yeah.
and but they're a good crowd, that there's
Oh, yeah. Well, I know Hawks very well. I mean, me and him, we meet. Like he and my dad had a tradition, kind of for, I don't know if you call it a tradition, but it was a habit where they would meet for lunch. You know the scullery of the town?
right.
They'd meet there, and since my dad's passed, me and Hawks have kind of carried on that we meet once a week. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to get up, we too, remember me saying, get up for a film, maybe we'll do something.
Exactly.
Because as much as I might not have socialist links, I want to keep that political ethos, anti-authoritarianism. Like I'm very anti-authoritarian, almost anarchist in my sympathies, and that's what I think a lot of my audience is too, coming from the drug backdrop, that depoliticize people, you know what I mean? So I think we can definitely grow, maybe in further episodes, talk something deeper about these things. I'm loving this already. From where I'm loving what's coming out on camera. It's good, because the fun about doing these here, you're always on your own, talking, spouting shit, and you're never getting a chance to bounce off somebody. You know what I mean? You know, there's also a lesson there to learn, they absorb. No, they lean back. No, as an interviewer, kind of. So, what about internet culture? I see your Instagram.
Well, I mean, in terms of, you know, I was kind of people about my age, maybe a year or two younger than me, would have been really the last group of people who didn't truly grow up with the internet in their pocket. Like when I was about, the iPhone really only became a thing when I was about maybe 10.
What age are you now?
21.
Oh, so you're just a kid, really? Jesus, man, you've been through a lot too.
No.
Hey, buddy, you know, if you don't know, he's 21. He came out the other end of schizophrenia like myself, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back and pat himself, but it's a great achievement, and for you to be sitting here the way you are, lad, hey, you don't know how fucking great that is, folks. And then you're tuned in, I see you got the Terry Davis t-shirt too. I love Terry Davis. Terry Davis is, if you don't know, he's like a big internet guru. He created an operating system called Temple OS. Tell me about Terry Davis.
About Terry Davis?
I guess about that.
Well, I came across Terry Davis about 6 years ago. He passed away in 2018, and I think I heard of him maybe about a month or two before he died.
Right.
And so Terry Davis essentially was a kind of a computer programmer who in the 1990s suffered a psychotic breakdown, and kind of had years of kind of in and out of hospitals, and then finally settled with his parents, and over about a decade programmed his own operating system from scratch, like
100 million lines of code. Apparently, he wrote all by himself, just on his jack top, just tripping out, man, taking fucking knots and wands.
And it's people can be critical of the operating system because it doesn't have a kind of a purpose in the way that like Windows you can use it. But like I've definitely heard there's a quote someone.
There's a spiritual overtone there, kind of, for people that don't know. He injected these religiosity beliefs, which is a common feature of like psychosis too, and the operating system was like tainted with these not tainted, inspired by these god overtones and like religious.
He believed that he was in communication with God. Like he had this theory that you could communicate to God through randomness. And he was inspired by a Bible quote, and I think it's the book of Proverbs, where basically it says along the lines of God determines every coin toss. And so he interpreted that as meaning that so random events are not random, and that then you could communicate to God through randomness. So he thought there was ways you could do this, like with a Ouija board or a coin toss. But he came up with this very complicated system of he used, so I think it's called INST, which is like this scientific institute in America that does like measurements for like people like NASA. All the scientists essentially in America use INST. And they had this kind of, I think it was a kind of beacon thing where it was using something like light that was being reflected, and they were using it to generate sort of truly random numbers. And so he programmed his operating system so it would take a string of, I think it was about 6 characters, and then bring that into his operating system and connect that with a notepad document that had the whole Bible on it, line by line. And so that by putting in these numbers, it would then generate a randomly chosen Bible quote. And so you would say something, you press the kind of the button, and the Bible quote would appear, and it would be a response to what you said.
It's like, did you see John Nash as well? That game theory. So there's a Methodist madness, and the fact that John Nash now has the word armed by nuclear weapons, which is a paranoid schizophrenic logic that if we all arm ourselves, we'll not attack each other. Do you know what I mean? So on one hand, it's brilliant, but on the other hand, it's like, what if?
The interesting thing about John Nash as well, though, is in a period of, so he's one of the few kind of schizophrenic people who, after a time, just kind of get better on their own. That's about 10%.
I think I'm one of the well maladjusted ones, where it's like, it's tempered down on me as I've got older. Don't get me wrong, I still have like moments of like I can get into delusional states very quickly, but I know by the feelings arising on me that it's not real, by the realness of it, if you know what I mean. That's a great insight, is to go, this is too real, because if it was real, I wouldn't actually give a fuck, if you know what I mean. So that I can eject me from bad situations rather quickly. But apart from that, it is a solitary lifestyle for me. I don't know about yourself, but would you say you're solitary?
Well, I mean, it's for most people that have like mental illnesses, there's definitely a degree of isolation. And I would say that I know a lot of people in the town, just through being in the mental health world, who have a variety of diagnoses, and they're all isolated in some ways, whether it's from their family, whether it's socially, you know what I mean. But I think that's just part of it. But myself, I've worked hard over the years to try and establish a good social circle.
And keep that going, and even if it's small, keep it, nourish it, because a big thing for me is, I never thought I would be that guy, but I have ended up that guy. I've ended up the guy that's like doesn't really see the family as much, because when I'm out there, I can be a bit antagonistic, and I don't mean to be, but it just gets that way, sometimes, because I'm talking about things that they're not really into, and not even on an intellectual level. I'm separate in that sense too, So But it does seem to happen because whatever way our ideology is, there's a richness to being schizophrenic, and I think that can be alienating too.
I think a part of it as well is as you were saying, in terms of not being able to have like shared communications, because like, you know, myself, a lot of the stuff that I would find interesting, most people either don't know about it or find it too bizarre or just don't go there. So that's where I've had arguments for a long time myself. I'm not trying to affect you in negative on your own diagnosis or your handle it, but there's times I've been anti-psychiatry in senses how it's treated as an illness, when at times, you know, it's just a style of thinking, like how a lot of the Asperger's community now see it as not defective but more as a style. We're just coming back here after we cut somebody knocked at the door, but we were talking about how I kind of have anti-psychiatry sort of views, especially in things like electroshock therapy, and these desperate means they can go to kind of almost subjugate styles of thinking that society isn't ready for, but not so much that they're defective, just more that they're not fashionable for the Overton window, or you know, the general consensus, the status quo, if you will. You know what I mean? I have a mixed view on psychiatry. I don't like how when someone goes to the doctors, whether it's a GP or a psychiatrist, and they complain about depression, whatever, and the first thing is they get handed antidepressants. I don't like that. I think there should be much more encouragement towards finding, you know, healthy non-medication ways of dealing with depression. Now, some people are, like, I've met some people who are just horribly depressed, and there's nothing that can be done to fix them, and so they kind of need medication. There's people like that, but most people, when they go to the doctors about depression, there could be things in terms of their lifestyle that's contributing. You know what I mean? Like, and also, like, if there's shit going on in your life that's like, you know, that is making you depressed.
I think that there's a formality for me, just in the way I think. There's just this formality, this clinician's idea of what it is to be a human being, you know, and there's this sense of reducing anything spiritual, because that goes under the realms of magical thinking. It's very like frozen off and compartmentalized, and it's a style of dissecting the human psyche, you know what I mean? And for something that is supposed to be battling it, there's always this it's a reductionist amount of behaviour, then it's an even further reductionist amount of medications, you know what I mean? And it's like the source of the thought, the richness, the diversity, and like just human consciousness is not being addressed properly. That's where I feel it. It's lacking in ways, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that, when it comes to psychiatry, I don't like how certain things can be treated, but when it comes to, you know, conditions like whether it's schizophrenia or it's bipolar or, you know, just sort of psychotic level illnesses, in my experience and for knowing other people that have these conditions, my feeling is that, you know, a lot of the times these people are not gonna get better without some degree of medication.
That's certainly true, because as I'm sitting here spouting these freedoms of thought and all, I definitely might need my medication. But what I think I need less of is government concern. For me being able to manage that. Do you know what I mean? Do you know? I definitely think I need my pills, but it is a.
Oh yeah, I'm a same.
I don't know if it's suppressing the mind, whatever, but it does whatever can be possible without them, you know what I mean?
And it's like, like when you meet someone who is, say, schizophrenic or whatever and are unmedicated, you know what I mean? It can be, for a lot of people, it can be a quite frightening experience, you know what I mean? But it's usually more frightening for the person themselves, you know what I mean?
100%. Like as much as the difficulties people see when you're going through it, it's damage to people around you too. But the utter terror cannot be quantified. Like my friend tried to say to me, "Oh, you were feeling like this?" And I was all, "No, lad. It was like a physical demon. He couldn't wrap he was looking for some sort of reductionist, subjective reason for it. And I thought, no, an objective demon. It was beyond the realms of like reality. It was thrust upon you in a realer than real way. The break of reality could be realer than this real existence we all think is what we know. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's like, I mean, like as well. Well, maybe that's just something we should talk about in just in terms of our personal experiences with it.
See, my personal experience, buddy, it's probably, don't know if you're the same as me, but it's very tied to myself, and it would be very hard for me to talk about on camera, but let's just say I put my family through absolute hell. When I look back at that time, I can't even remember properly, because my brain blocked it out. It was too much to even process.
Like when I had my first kind of, I had my kind of psychotic breakdown over the course of lockdown.
Is that when it happened?
It started.
Is that what a terrible time for it to happen?
It started a couple months before, and it progressed very slowly. And then, just before lockdown, I was meeting with a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says, "Look, I'm going to prescribe you antipsychotics."
You're doing great for such a short time afterwards. You're well held together, buddy. You're not that bloated. When I had my breakdown, it started happening to me over years, but I never knew, I had demonic possessions, I had hallucinations. When I was a wee baby, I used to think, when I was a wee wee, I used to think a devil was on me, all these things. But these were all things we just looked at it, Paul's mad. But then I had this major breakdown when I was 19, I had these wild delusions, and it thrust me, turned my whole world upside down. Even today, I'm still loving the effects of it. When it's done to people around me and all. But it's almost like it's thrust upon you. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
Well, like there's very few instances of people where they do something that triggers it. For most people, that just happens to you. But nobody ever. People were saying things like that and reading it that way, but nobody ever kind of expressed concern. It started when the psychosis started when I was 16, and then just not long after I turned 17, I had this psychiatrist who was going to prescribe me antipsychotics, and all the other people, this was in the CAMS, so Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, and all the other staff were going, "What do you do? You can't be doing that. This is a severe step." And then the psychiatrist said, "No, I'm doing this." And then lockdown happened, and I didn't see any mental health people for about 6 months. And it was during that where things really went down, because it was complete. Obviously, everybody was isolated in lockdown, but
that's a time where a lot of people go. We're already on some sort of mainstream schizophrenia. So to go mad at that time would have been, I can imagine it would have been amplified.
And so the breakdown took about a full year, and then basically then I was it would have been about June 2021, so I would have been 18 at this time that I actually got the schizophrenia diagnosis. And since then, it's been like now, this past year has been like the most kind of stable period of the past few years.
I found it to be revelatory to begin with, but then it brought me down kind of. It was like a label, and I use a label, and I felt it on it. Like it's hard to explain, but it takes your identity. You know what I mean? In a way.
But like it took a long time to get me medication right. I've been about a dozen different kinds of medications, like anti-anxiety, anti-depression, antipsychotic. I'm on about 5 different antipsychotics, but the one I'm on at the moment, which is called lorazepam, is brilliant for me. For me personally, it's just I take 1 pill once a day, and that's
brilliant. That's brilliant. That's good. Low damage on the body.
I was on a drug when I was 19, and that was a typical antipsychotic from the 80s.
Right.
And it was like I got a jag every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It was really severe.
Were we getting the forced injections?
It wasn't a forced injection, but it was like
just for stability.
This drug was it was kind of, they said it's better to take this drug in these kind of doses. in like in a larger dose over, so you get it every 2 weeks. You get an injection. And they started doing that when I was in Grantia.
I'm afraid of that. I don't want to be forcibly medicated.
I've never been forced, but there can be. I know people who've been in Grantia as well.
Happen,
I know people who've been forced, but it can be forced in another way, and like they can say, right, we're not going to force you down and inject you. But the reality is, we can't let you out unless you willingly take it.
That's what it is.
So there can be stuff like that. Now, I've never been forced to take anything, but anyway, so this drug, Triflexil, was really severe. Like, I put on a lot of weight. I had like facial spasms, shaking. I was really heavily sedated, emotionally numb, and I was on that for almost a year. Do you know what I mean? It was a really severe drug. But the thing is about it was hands down the best drug I ever got in terms of dealing with
symptoms. You've got good animation to your fist. A lot of people get the asshole fist, the flatness.
I would have had that back then.
When you were dull at the beginning. When I went on chloropromazine too, I blew up to like 17 stone and fucking. It was a really bad tablet, but I got on amisulpride and I've had my moments, but it's been a good tablet.
People, different drugs work differently for different people.
You can go through a few tailspins and then you'll be on lithium or something. For people who don't know about lithium, it's really damaging to the body. You need to have your bloods done all the time. So there's like a lottery list of drugs don't work. You know what I mean? They quote fucking Richard Ashcroft and you'll eventually get lithium if you can't respond to symptoms. Which is a sort of. It'd be good if there was better medication for that sort of stuff.
Well, some of the drugs some drugs can work really well at dealing with people's symptoms, but they can really physically debilitate you.
I get the shake. I always shake my legs, but it's not that big of a deal.
If I take my medication at night before I go to bed, if I were to take it in the morning, I'd get the full force of the side effects. I'd be like really restless, but also really tired at the same time. So I have to take it.
You get the legs and you go look at it and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I was in a car ride to Belfast once, like that, for like an hour and a half, and I was like, fucking get me out of here. I need to get out and walk.
See, when I first had my breakdown, buddy, I remember we had a friend and I just got up and I said, I have to walk. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I just have to fuck. I was on Risperdal.
Oh yeah.
On Risperdal. They didn't work well with me. My eyes were looking at the bridge the whole time. And he was spooked out, but I just wanted to, I couldn't sit up. It's like the most, it's like, I can't sit still.
It's fucking torture. I would, there would have been a period of where if you were in my house talking to me, I wouldn't be able to sit down. I'd have to be pacing the whole time.
People, it was very hard. It took me. You're very well adjusted. They say love helps, buddy. So you must have love in your life. People must be good to you.
Oh, definitely.
Because you see, it's great to see people bounce back as good as myself. Because I know a lot of people they'll always be bitten by it a while lot, and it's good to see people high function in a sense. They know that. There's sort of an unrelatability even to the people that are really bad. You can't sort of engage as good, but it's good to have somebody.
Well, I think a thing that I've seen with a lot of people is that having people around you that support you, whether it's family or it's friends, or even if you're fucking got a good even mental health team
network, even that.
If you have all three of those, then people can do very well.
You can do very well.
And the people that I know who are low functioning people and are very affected by it are tend to be people who are very isolated, who don't talk to their family, don't really have many friends. Don't engage with services, and they tend to be they do worse. When they don't.
100%. The best thing a schizophrenic can do is be open, because that was for me. For a big point in my life, I was locked in, all dealing with everything on my own, imaginary things, voices, all the shit going right. This is just called Rory's word, but they verbalised that and shared with another human being. That was a big breakthrough for me to take the inside out, you know what I mean? And I think that definitely helps people as they communicate.
Yeah.
You know, and if you know somebody, then try and communicate with them, you know what I mean?
You're able to know what to do in situations, you know what I mean? Like if you know who to talk to, whether it's one of your friends or what. Like for me, like I think I do. Like if I'm in like an episode, your people who are schizophrenic, like if you want to judge it in the simplest terms, their minds are just hyperactive in a massive degree, and you're having loads of thoughts and making loads of associations.
And a lot of them thoughts can be great.
Yeah,
everything's mad.
No, well that's the thing is like I know other people who would be, you know, have, you know, psychotic kind of illnesses, and they will be a lot more open to aspects of the world or of life that other people would kind of shy away from, whether that's kind of, you know, more kind of in terms of things like aspects of like religion and mysticism, or if it's more to do with things like, you know, people will call it conspiratorial stuff, but
we're searchers in a way.
Well, I think what it is like when you become psychotic, your mind's opened up where literally anything is possible. So no matter how ridiculous or nonsensical it can become reality.
It's like simulation for the brain in a sense. So concepts are opened up.
Yeah, but when that happens, obviously your head can get flooded with fucking a lot of nonsense. But at the same time, you can also then become open to ideas or concepts that before you maybe thought were far-fetched.
Exactly. There's a fine line, as they always have said, between madness and you know, substantial thinking. Like,
and I think that's why a lot of people who become psychotic also then gravitate towards religion as well. Do you know what I mean? Because they're kind of a lot of people who become psychotic and then go on to become really religious. Before they were kind of I don't
very found religion in a big way, and I question myself. I say, is this classic schizophrenia, or is this just a path of life? As my atoms have changed, have I changed my well-being? No. And it's funny, I do wrestle with that, but from what I can see, it seems to be a positive psychosis because I do good things from it. You know, I might have a bit of a problem with Zionism and stuff like that, but as far as hateful feelings go, they've pretty much dissipated with the words, you know.
Well, like that's I would be similar in that kind of that thing of going
grey area.
Is this connected? Like for example, I started to become like I wasn't baptized. I was you know, there was no religion in my house.
Was there not? No, so you come from. See, it was kind of culturally with me. So this is a guy was saying to me the other day, "Oh, we're born on din," and I said, "Not at all. There's Muslims convert to Christianity. It's something we find. It's something I never had in my life. I went on this and all, but I didn't know nothing."
Well, like most people are just Catholic in name. But my family, my wider family, on both sides of my family were all Catholic, but my actual parents weren't religious, and there was no religion in my house.
So Stephen was good like that, was he? But that's good, and from his generation, that's positive from where he came from, to be honest.
But his thing was, like, both my parents, when I was born, they were like, we are not going to
force.
And they says whatever he decides to go towards as an adult that's his decision.
He's made a permanent. Hey, Stephen, if you're up there, hey, he's done permanent. Hey, so he is, lad. Give me five, brother. Hey, you're a fucking gent. I'm loving listening to you, and I'm loving. We done this just kind of organically. We didn't talk much before camera, and this is just natural chemistry. Buzzing my head off you, buddy.
You know, people could say, "Oh, it's a part of your illness" or whatever, but like for me, like it's been nothing but positive.
It doesn't seem to be part of my illness. It seems to be my demonic possessions were a separate entity, and I just so happen to be dealing with a lot of psychotic stuff in my life, but those were spiritual. I look at those as isolated spiritual instances, you know what I mean? Where it was like not hallucination, but something other than me.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I mean, when you start looking into people who have like religious experiences, like I was watching a documentary there a couple weeks ago called Bells from the Deep, Werner Herzog documentary, and it's about kind of it's called, the subtitle of it is called Faith and Superstition in Russia, or Siberia, I think is maybe the actual more specific. But there's things in it where there's like people relating stories of visions or of experiences and stuff like that, and you listen to them, and like a person who's non-religious and skeptical will go, oh, that's a hallucination, that's mental illness, that's imagination. But when you're someone who knows how these kind of things work and how hallucinations work, and then you hear certain things people say, you go, I don't know anybody who's ever had a hallucination like that.
Exactly. This is what I talk about too. When that happened to me, when I was confronted with the idea that everything I knew was wrong and the reality I was perceiving was wrong, I went into reality then. I started studying particle physics and quantum mechanics and all that there, and get down to just say, what is reality? And of course, it's a completely abstract, unattainable, can't be measured thing. So, we're going up in levels here, and it's really quite fast, and they try and not even document what it is from the nature of a person's thinking, but you can definitely recognise when you're getting it wrong and how that disrupts your own life and others. Do you know what I mean? It's funny, it's a funny business. But I'm loving this here. I'm just looking at what we've had here. So we've done 30, 40, 45 minutes. Is that good enough for you for the meantime?
Up to you, whatever.
Hey, well, we could do another one some other day.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
But I think we'll leave it on that note there, folks, because I want to keep you entertained too, and we'll keep it going for another episode. But it's been a real pleasure, Steve. I called you Steve again. I'm calling him Stephen all the time. Darragh, pleasure, buddy. Hey, thanks very much, folks, and we'll get another one of these done very shortly. I think we could probably get 2 episodes out of this if we haven't already. Up life, folks. Don't let the bastards grind you down.